Han stood alone at the observation deck of Galactic Trade Station Meridian 7. She watched the ships move slowly past the huge windows. They looked like glowing fish swimming through a black ocean. Some were small trading vessels. Others were massive cargo haulers that could carry enough food to feed a planet for a year. Watched them all with quiet eyes. She was 28 years old. She was small, even by human standards. Her black hair was pulled back in a simple knot, and she wore the plain gray uniform of a human diplomat. To anyone watching, she looked like nothing special. Just another soft human far from her home world. That was exactly how she wanted to look. The station was busy today. Hundreds of different species walked through its corridors. Some had scales. Some had feathers. Some had bodies that humans could not even describe properly. The galaxy was full of strange and wonderful life, and Meridian 7 was where many of them came to trade. They were the ones who controlled this sector of space. They were tall creatures with pale skin stretched tight over long bones. Their eyes were large and dark, and they moved with the lazy confidence of predators who had never lost a fight. They had ruled this part of the galaxy for 300 years, and they let everyone know it. Had been watching a group of merchants for the past hour. They stood near the trading terminals, laughing at something. One of them looked toward the observation deck and saw her standing there. He said something to his friends, and they all laughed again. Did not react. She simply turned back to the window and continued watching the ships. Her colleague found her there 20 minutes later. Park was a communications officer, a man in his early 30s with messy hair and dark circles under his eyes. He worked too hard and slept too little, but he was good at his job. "There you are," he said, walking up to stand beside her. "I have been looking everywhere." "I was here." "Yes, I can see that now." He let out a long breath. "The delegate refused our trade proposal again." Nodded slowly. "What reason did he give this time?" "He said humanity is not ready for equal partnership. He called us promising livestock." Hands formed fists at his sides. "Livestock, like we are animals waiting to be used." "What did you say to him?" "Nothing." I smiled, I bowed, I thanked him for his time. His voice was bitter. "Just like headquarters told us to do, always be polite, never make trouble, show them we are peaceful." "And that is what you did?" "Yes, that is what I did." He turned to look at her. "Does it not make you angry? They look at us like we are nothing, like we are children who wandered into a room full of adults." Was quiet for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was calm. "Let them think that. You always say that. Every time someone insults us, every time they treat us like dirt, you just say let them think that." Shook his head. "What does that even mean?" "It means exactly what it sounds like." Studied her face. He had worked with for almost a year now, but he still did not understand her. She was always calm, always quiet. She never raised her voice, never showed anger, never seemed bothered by anything. It was strange. "Where are you from?" he asked suddenly. "On Earth, I mean, you never talk about it." "Korea." "I know that. I'm also from Korea, but where in Korea? What city? What region?" Did not answer right away. She kept her eyes on the window, watching a small shuttle dock with the station. When she finally spoke, her voice was different, softer, older somehow. "Nowhere that exists anymore." Frowned. "What do you mean? Did something happen to your—" Before could answer, the alarm started screaming. The sound was loud and harsh, cutting through the air like a knife. Red lights began flashing along the corridors. Saw people outside the observation deck start running. Some were screaming. Others were pushing and shoving to get somewhere safe. "What is happening?" shouted over the noise. Was already moving toward the door. "Come with me, now." They ran through the corridors together. The station was in chaos. Aliens of every species were rushing in different directions. Some were heading for the escape pods. Others were trying to reach the security stations. A voice was speaking over the intercom, but it was hard to hear over all the noise. grabbed a passing station worker by the arm. He was a small creature with blue skin and 4 eyes, all of them wide with fear. "What is happening?" she demanded. He gasped. "They are here, 3 ships, they are already boarding." He pulled free from her grip and ran away as fast as his short legs could carry him. Had gone pale. "Here, but this is a protected station, they cannot just attack us. They can do whatever they want. They are slavers, they do not follow galactic law." They were known across the galaxy. They were collectors of living beings. They took people from stations and planets and ships, and they sold them to the highest bidder. Their ships looked like floating cathedrals made of bone and dark metal. When they appeared in a system, people prayed to whatever gods they believed in. "We need to get to the escape pods," said. "The escape pods will not help. They always disable them first." Was moving again, heading toward the security command center. They do not want their merchandise to escape. "Then what do we do?" Stopped walking. She turned to look at, and something in her eyes made him take a step backward. It was like looking at a different person. The quiet diplomat was gone. In her place was something hard and cold and very, very dangerous. "You go to the communications array," she said. "Wait for my signal." "What are you going to do?" She did not answer. She simply turned and walked away, disappearing into the chaos of the fleeing crowds. Stood alone in the corridor, the alarms still screaming overhead. He did not understand what had just happened. He did not understand the look in his eyes, or where she was going, or what she planned to do. But somewhere deep in his gut, he felt something strange. It was not quite hope. It was more like the feeling a person gets when they realize they have been standing next to a loaded weapon without knowing it. They had come to take humans as slaves. They had no idea what they had just started. The boarding ships attached to the station like parasites digging into flesh. There were 3 of them, each one carrying 40 soldiers. They cut through the outer hull with plasma torches and poured into the corridors like a flood of nightmares. They were not beautiful creatures. They stood 7 feet tall and looked like someone had mixed an insect with a demon. Their bodies were covered in hard shells the color of dried blood. Their arms ended in claws that could cut through metal. Their faces had no expression because they had no real faces, just clusters of eyes above mouths full of sharp teeth. They moved fast through the station, faster than most species could run. They carried neural disruptors that could knock a person unconscious with a single shot. They did not want to kill. Dead bodies had no value. They wanted live merchandise. Station Chief Bay watched the security monitors from the command center. He was an old man with silver hair and tired eyes. He had spent 40 years in space, working his way up from cargo loader to station commander. He had seen many things in those years: pirates, accidents, disease outbreaks, but he had never seen anything like this. "They have taken levels 12 through 15, one of his officers reported. They are herding people toward the main cargo bay." "What about our security teams?" "Dead or scattered. We only had 30 guards on duty. They have over 100 soldiers." Closed his eyes. This was a nightmare, a complete nightmare. The station had over 2,000 people on it, and he could do nothing to save them. The door to the command center opened. Han walked in, still wearing her simple gray uniform. She looked calm, too calm for someone in the middle of a slaver attack. "Ambassador Han said, you should be hiding. They are specifically targeting humans." "I know." She walked to the security monitors and studied them carefully. "How many boarding parties?" 3, 40 soldiers each. "Weapons?" "Plasma rifles, neural disruptors, standard equipment for a harvest operation." Nodded. Her eyes moved across the screens, watching the soldiers move through the corridors. She was memorizing their patterns, their positions, their movements. She was learning them. "We need to surrender," said. His voice cracked as he spoke. "If we fight, they will kill everyone. If we surrender, at least some people might survive long enough to be rescued." "No." Ambassador, you do not understand. We have no weapons, no soldiers, no way to fight back. Turn to look at him. You do not need soldiers, you have me. Park arrived at that moment, breathing hard from running. The escape pods are disabled. The emergency shuttles are destroyed. There is no way off the station. I know. Then what do we do? Reached into her pocket and pulled out a small data chip. She pressed it into his hand and closed his fingers around it. Go to the communications array. Upload this file. Broadcast it on the emergency channel at galactic standard frequency. Make sure everyone in the sector can hear it. Looked at the chip in his hand. What is this? The truth. The truth about what? Was already walking toward the door. She stopped at the entrance and looked back at him. Her eyes were different now. There was something burning behind them, something that made his heart beat faster. The truth about Earth, she said. The truth about what we really are. Then she was gone. Stared at the door where she had disappeared. That woman is going to get herself killed. Maybe, said, but he was not so sure. He had seen the look in her eyes. It was not the look of someone walking to their death. It was the look of a hunter walking toward prey. He ran for the communications array. The hallways were chaos. People were screaming and running in every direction, pushed through them holding the data chip tight in his fist. He did not know what was on it. He did not know why wanted him to broadcast it, but he trusted her. He did not know why, but he trusted her. He reached the communications room and locked the door behind him. The equipment was still working. They had not bothered to destroy it because they did not care if their victims called for help. Help would never arrive in time anyway. Inserted the chip into the main console. A file appeared on the screen. It was labeled with a long string of numbers and letters that he did not recognize. He opened it. What he saw made him stop breathing. It was a Galactic Survey report, an official document from the Galactic Council's Exploration Division. It was about Earth. But the information was wrong. Everything he knew about Earth was wrong. The official classification said Earth was a Class 4 world, moderate danger, developing biosphere, primitive intelligent life. That was what all the aliens believed. That was why they looked down on humans. Earth was supposed to be a soft world full of soft creatures. The real report said something very different. Earth was Class 12, the highest danger rating possible. A world so hostile, so violent, so completely deadly that every other species who had discovered it had marked it as uninhabitable. The report called it a. Scrolled through the data with shaking hands. He saw statistics about Earth's history. 5 mass extinction events, volcanic winters that blocked out the sun for years, ice ages that covered half the planet in frozen death, asteroid impacts that killed 90% of all life. And through all of it, humans had survived. Not just survived, evolved, adapted, grown stronger. The report talked about human endurance, about how humans could chase prey for days without stopping, about how humans could survive injuries that would kill any other species, about how humans had fought and killed creatures 10 times their size with nothing but sharp sticks. There was a section about human history, about the wars they had fought against each other, about the weapons they had created, about the billions who had died in conflicts that spanned the globe. Humans were not peaceful creatures who had stumbled into space. They were the survivors of an endless war against their own planet and themselves. And there was information about. She came from a region that had been destroyed by war, famine, and natural disaster. A place where children learned to survive before they learned to walk. She had grown up in hell and come out the other side forged into something the galaxy had never seen. Understood now, he understood everything. He activated the broadcast. The signal went out across the sector. Every ship, every station, every planet within range received the file. They received the truth. Earth was not a Class 4 world. Humans were not soft creatures. And the had just made a terrible, terrible mistake. The first squad of soldiers found Han in Corridor 7B. There were 12 of them, moving in tight formation with their weapons raised. Their leader was larger than the others, covered in ceremonial armor that showed his high rank. He had killed many prey in his long career. He had captured thousands of slaves across 100 worlds. He feared nothing. When he saw the small human woman standing alone in the middle of the corridor, he made a clicking sound that passed for laughter among his kind. "One female," he said to his soldiers. "Small, weak, valuable, humans sell well at the markets." His soldiers moved forward to surround her. Did not run. She did not scream. She did not beg for mercy like so many others had done. She simply stood there, watching them approach with eyes that showed no fear at all. "Submit," the leader commanded. "Come quietly and you will not be harmed. Fight and you will suffer." Tilted her head slightly to one side. "Do you know what it is?" The leader paused. The word was familiar to him. It was a term used by galactic surveyors to describe planets that were too dangerous for colonization, worlds of constant natural disaster, worlds where evolution had turned everything into a killer. No intelligent species came from such places. Nothing that developed higher thought could survive on a. "What does this matter?" he asked. "I come from one." The leader clicked his teeth together in confusion. "Earth is Class 4, moderate danger. We have studied your world." "Your studies were wrong." She moved. They were fast. Their reflexes operated 3 times quicker than most species in the galaxy. They could see attacks coming before they happened. They could react to danger in fractions of a second. They had evolved as predators on a world where speed meant survival. They never saw move. One moment she was standing still. The next moment she was among them and the first soldier was falling with his throat crushed. Before his body hit the ground, she had already killed the second, and the third, and the fourth. She did not fight like any creature they had ever seen. She did not punch or kick in clumsy patterns. She moved like water flowing around rocks, always where they did not expect, always finding the weak points in their armor. Her fingers found the soft joints between their shells. Her palms struck with enough force to crack their exoskeletons. The leader fired his neural disruptor. The beam passed through empty air where had been standing. She was behind him now, and her hand was around his weapon, twisting it from his grip with impossible strength. "How?" he managed to say before she killed him. The fight lasted 19 seconds. When it ended, 8 soldiers lay dead on the floor. The 4 survivors were running, actually running, fleeing down the corridor as fast as their legs could carry them. Han stood in the middle of the carnage. She was not even breathing hard. She picked up one of the plasma rifles and checked its charge. Full. Good. She would need it for what came next. On the other side of the station, the merchants who had laughed at humans were watching the security feeds with expressions of pure horror. They had accessed the broadcast that sent out. They had read the truth about Earth. Now they were seeing that truth demonstrated in real time. "Impossible," one of them whispered. "This is impossible. Humans are weak. They are prey." Another was reading through the Earth data with trembling hands. 5 mass extinctions. They survived 5 mass extinctions. Their planet tried to kill them over and over, and they kept surviving. Look at their evolutionary history. They hunted megafauna to extinction, creatures 10 times their size. They killed them all with primitive weapons. Their bodies can heal from injuries that would kill us. They can lose limbs and survive. They can be poisoned and survive. They fight through pain that would shut down our nervous systems. The first turned away from the screen. He could not watch anymore. "We called them livestock. We mocked them. We treated them like children. We did not know. We should have known. No species reaches space without strength. We were fools." Throughout the station, the broadcast was spreading. Every alien who saw it felt the same cold fear growing in their gut. They had shared a station with humans. They had walked beside them in the corridors. They had looked at them with pity and contempt. Now they understood what they had been looking at all along. Humans were not the soft survivors of a gentle world. They were the end result of billions of years of constant violence. Their planet had thrown everything at them, every disaster, every predator, every disease, and they had defeated all of it. They had climbed to the top of the food chain on a world that made most other planets look like paradise. And they had hidden it. They had come to the galactic community with smiles and bowed heads. They had accepted insults and refused to fight back. The galaxy had thought this was weakness. It was not weakness. It was control. Humans were so dangerous, so inherently violent, that they had learned to hold themselves back. They had developed civilization specifically to contain their own destructive nature. They were not peaceful because they could not fight. They were peaceful because they had already fought everything else and won. The commander received word of his first squad's destruction. He did not believe the report. He sent his second squad to investigate. They found the bodies of their fallen brothers scattered across the corridor. They found claw marks in the walls where the soldiers had tried to flee. They found a trail of blood leading deeper into the station. The trail led to the second squad's death. Killed them in a maintenance tunnel. She used the darkness and the tight spaces to her advantage. They could not aim their weapons in the narrow passages. They could not use their superior numbers. They died one by one, picked off by a predator who knew exactly how to hunt. The survivors who made it back to the main boarding party could not speak properly. Their minds had broken. They had seen something that contradicted everything they knew about the universe. They had seen a human hunt them like animals. The commander looked at his broken soldiers and finally began to understand. He had come to this station to take slaves. He had found a nightmare instead. The commander was named. He had led slaving operations for 30 years. He had captured beings from dozens of worlds. He had broken warriors who thought they could fight back. He had destroyed entire communities who tried to resist. Nothing had prepared him for this. He stood in the cargo bay where his soldiers had been gathering prisoners. 200 aliens knelt on the floor with their hands bound. They were supposed to be merchandise. They were supposed to be afraid. Now was the one who felt fear. "Report," he ordered his surviving officers. "How many soldiers do we have left?" 73, Commander. "We have lost 49 to the human." "One human. 49 soldiers dead because of one human." "Yes, Commander." Turned to look at the prisoners. Among them were several humans, their faces pale but their eyes watchful. He studied them carefully. They looked so ordinary, so fragile. How could creatures like this produce a monster like the one hunting his soldiers? "The ships," he said. "Prepare for departure. We take what we have and leave." "Commander, we could hunt her down. We still have numbers." "You saw the reports. You saw what she did to the first 2 squads. This is not a hunt anymore. We are the prey now." He began walking toward the boarding tunnel that connected to his ship. His officers followed. They left the prisoners behind because the prisoners no longer mattered. Survival was all that mattered now. They did not make it to the ship. The lights in the corridor went out. Emergency power activated, bathing everything in dim red light. A moment later, a section of the floor opened up and vented atmosphere into space. 3 soldiers were sucked through before the emergency seals closed. Spun around, searching for the threat. She was here, she was somewhere close. He could feel it. "Spread out," he ordered. "Find her." His soldiers moved into defensive positions. Their weapons swept the shadows. Every sound made them flinch. Every flicker of light made them fire at nothing. Han watched them from an air vent above. She had spent months studying this station. She knew every maintenance tunnel, every service corridor, every weak point in its structure. The station was her weapon now. She dropped from the vent behind a group of soldiers. Her captured plasma rifle fired 3 times. 3 soldiers fell. She was moving before the others could react, disappearing into a side passage that she knew led to engineering. Heard the gunfire. He heard his soldiers screaming. He ran. He was not a coward. He had faced death many times and never retreated. But this was different. This was not battle. This was being hunted by something that could not be stopped. The human woman appeared in front of him. She was covered in blood. Some of it was hers. Most of it was not. Her gray uniform was torn and stained. There was a wound on her side that looked serious, but she did not seem to notice it. Her eyes were locked on him with the focus of a predator who had found its final prey. "You are the commander," she said. It was not a question. Raised his weapon. "Stay back, I will kill you." "Many have tried. I am not like the others." "No, you are the one who gave the orders. You are the one who decided to attack this station. You are the one who wanted to take humans as slaves." She began walking toward him. Her steps were slow and steady. She did not rush. She did not need to rush. "Do you know what humans call our home?" she asked. "We call it Earth. It means dirt, ground, the thing you walk on. We named our entire planet after the soil because that is where we came from. We crawled out of the mud and we became the most dangerous things our world had ever seen." Fired his weapon. The shot hit her shoulder and spun her around. She stumbled but did not fall. When she turned back to face him, she was smiling. "That would have killed most species," she said. "For a human, it is just pain. We are very good at ignoring pain." She rushed at him. Was fast. He was strong. He was the greatest warrior his people had produced in 3 generations. He fought with every technique he knew, every trick he had learned in 30 years of combat. It was not enough. Took his attacks and gave back worse. She moved inside his guard and struck at the weak points of his armor. Her fists cracked his shell. Her fingers found the soft flesh underneath. She was wounded and bleeding, and she did not slow down at all. Felt something break inside his chest. He staggered backward, trying to raise his claws for one final strike, caught his arm and twisted. The bone snapped. He fell to his knees, looking up at the small human woman who had destroyed his entire operation. His soldiers were dead or fleeing. His ships were locked down. Everything he had built over 30 years was gone. "What are you?" he whispered. Looked down at him with those cold, ancient eyes. "I am human. We are not special. We are not chosen. We are just survivors. Our planet tried to kill us for millions of years and we refused to die. We fought everything. Predators, disease, ice, fire, each other. We fought until there was nothing left to fight, and then we built civilization so we would have something to do besides killing." She crouched down to look him in the face. "You wanted to know what you captured today. You captured the children of a. You captured the species that ate mammoths and killed gods and walked out of Africa with nothing but sharp sticks. You captured the only creatures in the galaxy who have spent their entire evolutionary history learning how to destroy everything that threatens them." Tried to speak, but blood filled his mouth. "Tell your people," said. "If any of you survive, tell them what happened here. Tell them that humans are not prey. Tell them that humans are not soft. Tell them to leave us alone." She stood up and walked away, leaving the dying commander on the cold floor. Behind her, the last of them were surrendering to station security. They threw down their weapons and knelt with their hands up. They had seen enough. They would rather be prisoners than face the human woman again. The hunt was over. The hunter had won. The rescue fleet arrived 6 hours after the attack began. 5 human warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel and surrounded the station. Their weapons were armed and ready. They were prepared for a fight. They did not find one. Captain commanded the lead ship, the HSS Resolution. He was a career military man with 20 years of service. He had fought pirates and defended colonies and seen more combat than most humans alive. When his ship docked with Meridian 7, he expected to find a massacre. Instead, he found victory. The The station was damaged but intact. The boarding ships were dead in space, their crews either killed or captured. 200 prisoners had been freed from the cargo bay. The surviving aliens were already calling it a miracle. But knew it was not a miracle. It was something far more simple and far more terrifying. It was one woman. He found Han in the medical bay. She was sitting on a bed while a doctor worked on her wounds. Her shoulder had been burned by plasma fire. Her side had been cut open by a claw. She had 3 broken ribs and more bruises than the doctor could count. She was drinking tea. Ambassador Han said carefully. He was not sure how to address someone who had just killed 50 soldiers by herself. Captain, she nodded at him. Thank you for coming. We came as fast as we could. The distress signal said there was an attack. He looked at her wounds, then at the calm expression on her face. The reports say you stopped them. I did what was necessary. You killed 49 soldiers, single-handedly. 51, 2 more died from wounds after I left them. She took a sip of her tea. They should not have come here. Sat down across from her. He had many questions. He did not know where to begin. How, he finally asked, how did you do it? Was quiet for a moment. She looked at the window where the stars shone cold and distant against the black. When I was 7 years old, she said, there was a fire in my building. My mother carried me down 14 flights of stairs. She had burns on her back so bad that you could see her bones. She did not stop. She did not put me down. She carried me all the way to the street before she collapsed. She turned to look at. Her eyes were old, much older than her face. She died 3 days later, but she got me out first. That is what humans do, Captain. We do not give up. We do not stop. We keep going past the point where anything else would quit. Our bodies are built for endurance. Our minds are built for survival. Our entire species is designed to outlast everything that tries to kill us. The galaxy does not understand this. The galaxy only sees what we show them. We came to space with open hands. We asked for peace. We accepted insults without fighting back. She smiled, but it was not a happy expression. They thought we were weak. They were wrong. We are not peaceful because we cannot fight. We are peaceful because we choose not to fight. There is a very big difference. Nodded slowly. He had read the file that broadcast. He had seen the truth about Earth. It had shocked him, even though he had lived on that planet for the first 18 years of his life. He had never thought of Earth as dangerous. It was just home. The storms and the earthquakes and the predators and the diseases were just normal parts of life. Everyone dealt with them. Everyone survived or they did not. He had not realized that survival itself was the unusual part. What happens now? He asked. Now the galaxy knows the truth. They will have to decide what to do with that information. The truth spread fast across the sector. Within days, it had reached every major civilization in the spiral arm. The consortium held emergency meetings. The collective recalled all their ships from human space. A dozen other species quietly adjusted their policies toward humanity. The official classification of Earth was changed. It was no longer Class 4. It was not even Class 12. The Galactic Council created a new category just for Earth. They called it Class H. H for human. 6 months later, a new human ambassador arrived at the Galactic Council headquarters. Her name was. She was young and polite and smiled at everyone she met. She bowed when introduced to the delegates. She spoke softly and chose her words with care. The other ambassadors bowed back. They smiled at her. They offered trade agreements and defensive pacts and everything they had refused to give humanity before. Because now they understood. Every human was a survivor. Every human carried the weight of millions of years of evolution on a world that wanted them dead. Every human was capable of becoming what Han had become in those corridors. They had simply chosen not to. That was the terrifying part. Not that humans could be monsters when pushed, but that they held that monster back every single day. They walked through the galaxy with weapons inside them, and they never drew those weapons unless they had no other choice. Ambassador attended a reception that evening. She stood in a room full of alien diplomats who had once looked down on her species. Now they watched her with careful eyes and spoke to her with careful words. One delegate approached her with a glass of some alien drink. "Ambassador," he said, "I wanted to welcome you personally. I hope we can have a productive relationship." Smiled at him. It was a warm, genuine smile. "Thank you. I look forward to working with you." "May I ask you something, a personal question?" "Of course." The hesitated. He was remembering the videos from Meridian 7. He was remembering the sight of a small human woman walking through soldiers like they were nothing. "Your people," he said, "you hide what you really are. You pretend to be soft and peaceful. Why?" Thought about the question. When she answered, her voice was gentle. "Because we remember what we were before we learned to pretend. We remember the wars and the famines and the endless violence. We remember what we did to each other before we built rules to stop ourselves." She looked around the room at all the aliens who were now so afraid of her kind. "We came to space hopping to be something new, something better. We wanted to be peaceful for real, not just pretending." She took a sip of her drink. "But we will always be what we were made to be. Children of survivors of the apocalypse, the ones who refused to die no matter what the universe threw at us." She smiled and for just a moment he saw something ancient and dangerous looking out through her eyes. "So please, let us be peaceful. Let us be kind. Let us be the gentle humans who ask for trade agreements and bow when we say hello." She leaned closer. "Because the alternative is what you saw at Meridian 7. And believe me, Ambassador, you do not want to see what happens when all of us stop pretending at once." The swallowed hard. In the corner of the room, watching everything with quiet eyes, stood Han. She wore a simple dress now instead of her gray uniform. Her wounds had healed. She looked like any other human, ordinary and small and completely harmless. She raised her glass to the room. The aliens who had once called humans livestock raised their glasses back. Peace had been earned the only way it could be earned. Through the promise of war.